entering the studios of Creative Conversations with Dr. C. You are entering the studios of Creative Conversations with Dr. C.
Well, hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to another edition of Creative Conversations with Dr. C. I am hoping that everybody is having a wonderful day thus far. As always, when we come on this podcast with Creative Conversation, it's truly about a conversation that everybody needs to hear, a conversation that should inspire, uplift, and encourage. And this conversation is one of those conversations that is going to do all three. I had the pleasure of bringing on Mr. Kenric Williams. Mr. Williams is not only just an entrepreneur, but he's a father, a grandfather, and he has a story to tell. He is now considered an author, and I am so equally excited for him to share his story with us here on this podcast today. Without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Williams and see what his story is about. Well, hello. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Man, I tell you, I cannot complain. I am above ground. I'm able to do some things that I was choosing to do today and right the wrongs that I did on yesterday and start fresh today. So I am equally blessed. I cannot even say it. I can't even get it out, right? I'm just blessed, right? So, oh, wait. Are we advertising something? I know that's right. And
That's
guess
it.
what? What we getting ready to talk about? That book. And I say that book. We got to put the capital THAT in that book. Yes, I was just telling the audience how I am so excited. I always tell people who better to tell their stories but them, but you. So we're going to just jump into this conversation. I said this is going to be an hour of enlightenment, encouragement, and just filling the people with some knowledge that we need to hear, especially in this time and day and age. So I
Okay.
told everybody that you're an entrepreneur, you're a father, you are a grandfather. Now you can put to your resume an author. So I said when I saw that, I saw this when it was brought to my attention, Climbing Mount Self. That in itself is a title that gives you that pause to say, well, what does that actually mean? So guess what?
hmm
I'm gonna turn it over to you, Mr. Williams, and you're gonna enlighten us about this book, you being this first-time author. So tell us a little bit about this book, that book rather.
The book is basically my story of how I started the journey of climbing me. For so long, I would always blame my situations and my positions in the world on other people or other situations. And it wasn't until I boom, I ran into was blessed to run into the right men who can put me on a journey of changing my perception. And in the changing of that perception, I found out that the problem was me the whole time. So they had the tools to show me how to make the journey and start the journey of climbing self. Uh,
Wow.
for so many years, I thought it was about me, and it wasn't. And I was the problem in 99.9% of my situations.
Wow. And you know what? That in itself is a mouthful, Mr. Williams, because a lot of times we are quick to blame everybody else about what's going on with us. We don't take the time to actually take the time to look within and say, hey, is it me? Why everybody is saying this about? Nah, it's not me. It's just them. But the perception is they're crazy. They don't know what they're saying. They don't have a clue. They never did X, Y, and Z. But in actuality, it is really us. I always tell all the time, I tell people this scenario. Sometimes we're like onions. We have to peel back the layer just to get to the core. And once we get to the core is not always what we expect it to be, but it has to be that way in order for us to, as you say, climb Mount Self, understanding who we are internally, because what's internally will eventually portray itself outwardly. And
Yeah,
sometimes we don't want that outward. We see it, but we don't want to claim it. We don't want to say, oh, yeah. But sometimes we have to do that. And I think that's the big core of a lot of it. We don't want to take the ownership. We want to blame everybody else, which is
yeah,
great. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
So what were we going to say? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was a big part, a big chunk of what kept me from doing it for so long, what kept me in that self bondage, was I thought I was responsible for it. So I noticed that in a lot of people that I work with as well. Uh, we hold on to that condition because we think we don't understand that we're not responsible for how we got there, but we're responsible for what we do about it when the awareness is there. So I
Mm,
think that kept me in the prison for a long time because I thought I was responsible for my condition, and I wasn't.
wow.
So that happens more times than not.
So when you say prison, I want the audience to understand that the prison that you're referring to is the mental prison that you have self-contained yourself in. And I agree with that. I think a lot of times we do put ourselves in these boxes and we do this, well, we don't self-reflect on the fact that it's not us. It's really the circumstances. And once you are made aware of it, now what do we do next?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
yeah. Actually, we're responsible to do something about the condition.
Mm, yeah. And I think now as we get older in life, if we as we have reared our children and now we're seeing our children become parents, we start having these times where we now can look at it and say, you know what, I don't want them to be in that same prison or that mentality that you can't get out. So
Yes,
in
ma'am.
creating a new life for yourself, we are creating this new generational, I say, wealth for the next generation. So
Yes,
when
ma'am.
you so when you said that you had the opportunity to surround yourself, because I tell people all the time, and I say this in pretty much when I'm having conversations with younger people, your circumstance is built around the people you keep company with, right? So
Hmm.
when you said you were able to surround yourself with, quote, men, what did they teach you?
Well, it's going to be a part in that book where it's going to entail where I didn't see a man until I was like 32 years old.
Wow.
So I knew men that had characteristics or features, but to operate in being a man, I did not. It eluded me. So what they did was taught me how to live. But first of all, identify what's going on with me and be able to title it correctly. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times we can say things like everybody running around here lately calling everybody narcissists and no one knows what it is. So not in depthly.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, first of all, they taught me how to identify what was going on with me. What were my defects of character, my grosser handicaps, so to speak. and we can put labels on those things and labels on my emotions, accurate labels, in order for, because I'm the only one that created this monster, so I'm the only one that can destroy it. But if I don't understand the monster, then I'm swinging at the air. They taught me how to make the identification of what is going on with me. They taught me how to process out of it, and they taught me how to reason through and get to the core of what my role was in it. So, and they just taught me how to operate in virtues and principles instead of foolery.
So if you were able to put a definition on being a man, what would your definition be now that you've gone through this journey, now that you were able to understand who Mr. Williams was from a young man to now, and being able to surround yourself at 32 years old with men that gave that definition? What would that definition be for you today?
Probably more, it probably would be to always clean house, trust God, and help others. If you operate in understanding that I'm not God, He is. So first of all, I got to understand my position. Second of all, I have to understand the state that contributes to that position. So the state is what I do every single day that lines up with that position. So that would be my definition of a man.
I am jotting down these because these are some good points. Understanding your position. I think a lot of times we put so many labels on so many different things, but understanding the dynamics of the pyramid or the structure of it, understanding that God comes first if you're spiritual. So I'm going to tell caveat to people out there that are listening to this. I don't know what your position is as far as religion is, but I know who I belong to and where I stand in this. So I'm gonna talk from my perception of what it is. When you understand, as you said, the position of the dynamics of life, God comes first because He is the creator of it all, right? So if you understand what is planted in you and understand that all conversation has to be routed back to Him, then everything else comes into line. I always tell people, as long as you're operating in the right lane, then everything else comes into play. So understanding the position it comes first. So I definitely understand that piece of it. So now that you understand the position and understand the definition of being a man and understanding your purpose, because it says, I thought you said, now it's really, I'm just going to surmise it as, now it's time taking those tools and providing them to somebody else. And in that somebody else, how are you using those new tools that you've created? What are you doing with those tools to give back? I always say give back to the community that you serve. How are you doing that now?
In many ways. I do it in my place of business. I do it in the group that I'm part of. And we deal with a population of men who are once maladjusted with society, are trying to get adjusted back to society. I do it with middle management and executive branches of our business. And it's mostly just getting people, just pouring into people and and it's going to be different. So I run a personal development management program at our company. I'm also part of AA, so I sponsor men on a regular basis, and I am part of recovery homes and halfway houses where we get guys that's coming back to society or getting out of treatment that's battling with certain things. I want to put it all under the umbrella of addiction, but sometimes we get guys that's battling lifestyle addictions. They can't leave the streets alone or whatever the case may be. All of it is perception though based. So what I do now is I sacrifice the time to pour into them like those men that I described poured into me. I
Mm.
don't say that I got 50 things to do because I am a busy person. But when it's time, when God, I'm talking about, put somebody in front of you, you have an assignment. So also in those virtues, I'm learning now how to abide in what the Spirit is saying. So it's a difference between knowing it, saying it, and quoting it, and following it.
Mm-hmm.
So and trust me, I am nowhere near 100%. I am still a work in progress, but I thank him for my shortcomings as well as my triumphs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have it all. Well, that means my time is up. So at the end of the day, everything that I'm not, I, His grace is sufficient. So uh, one thing I do is I don't play when He puts somebody in front of me. I call it, and then I use the same tools that those guys they used with me to bring people through the same process that I went through.
And that's that in itself. I think people get it misunderstood. If you are in tune with God, His voice precedes everybody else's. You
Mm-hmm.
know when He's calling you to do something. You know when He says, I need you to stop, listen, and pay attention to what I'm trying to give you. Because in giving, He's giving you these tools so that you can operate on this earth for people to see Him through you. It's not about us. Like we've said, we've had a conversation before this. It's not about us. It's not
No,
about the titles. It's not about the companies. It's about who have you poured into? Who have you touched to allow them to see the goodness within them? Sometimes we have so many people out here who don't even know their own value. But God, as you says, put them in front of us so that they can see it because
mm-hmm.
He allowed us to see it within us. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love the fact that you are taking those tools and utilizing them and pouring back into someone else. Because again, we can always say all day long, we're busy. But when the assignment comes to say, I need you to take X, Y, and Z, who just got out of who, whatever, and he need X, Y, and Z to keep him from jumping off the ledge, then that's your assignment. And if you don't understand the assignment, then it wasn't meant for you anyway.
Correct.
You know, so
Correct.
I'm excited about hearing these things. So you indicated that as an entrepreneur, you have all these different resources for everybody that needs them. So tell me, what does Mr. Williams do when we just sit back and just chill out? What's your day like when there's not an assignment in front of you? There's not a event that you need to go to. What do you do to prepare yourself for the next thing that's coming around the corner?
Well, the mentor that I have now, or the sponsor that I have now, um, has beat me across the head with being a truth seeker. So I'm constantly seeking. I'm not resting on my laurels. I fight against that. It tries to get me to, but I fight against that. So when there's like, this is a constant quest, it doesn't cut off. So I'm usually seeking something or more information about something or something that I'm working on or something that's me and him discussed or that I'm working on with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to sit across from anybody and waste their time.
Mm-hmm.
So I am constantly seeking information. Like I may sit when my slate is calming down, well, when the runway is coming down, I may sit and I may read up on something for an hour or two, or I may watch something that's tied to a training, educational video, light jazz in the background, uh, some real good food I love to eat. Uh, uh, but yeah, that's basically my life now. Like I don't really do anything crazy or as crazy as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I think the distractions of the world and there's so many of them. What I resisted so much in this process that became my favorite thing to do. So this is all I like to do now. It's not a chore. It's not a job. It's not a. I love it. So I love diving deeper into what position and state means, or what is what is true humility, what is meekness, what is. I like just probing things now. It's became fun.
Yeah. I think as we get older in life, I think the things that we seek so much, because you know how our parents would say, all that stuff out there, it gets old, and really it does get old after a while. We become more calmer as we get older. But I always tell people, if you stop learning, you are now stagnant. And we never want to be stagnant. We want to be able to keep our mind open and aware of the things around us. So I agree with the fact that, constantly learning and constantly wanting to thrive and strive to do something differently each day is what keeps you motivated and keep you active and keep you alive and young, because you're now seeking more and more things each and every day, which is great.
Yeah, it doesn't take 24 hours to do. I can pour an hour, 2 hours in. I just recently started going to the movies by myself. So I'm 52 years old. I've never went to the movies by myself. Here lately, I've started going to the movies by myself, and it is a blast. So, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to do things that's more geared towards self-care.
Yes.
Because the more I thought I would lose time, because the trick is, why I was running for many years to do all the things we talking about now, is because I thought that I need to catch up from the years that I wasn't doing what I should, what the world quoted was fun. And then the two words that scare most of humanity is work and practice. So work doesn't scare me. So now I've gotten to a place now that the more I stay on top of what I need to do, the more time I have for self-care. So it doesn't matter how thick my schedule is with helping somebody or work or whatever the case may be. If I knock those things down, God somehow still clears my runway for more time than I can even use.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how that works.
You know what? It's not for us to understand how it works. It just happens. Because, I said the same thing. You know what I'm saying? If you spend so much time trying to figure it out, you losing time, right? And we can't get it back, right? And I would agree with you. You were so used to having somebody, I always say, the entourage of people with you. But once you get to the place where you're able to just sit by yourself and enjoy yourself, I had the opportunity to just go to dinner by myself.
Wow.
And I didn't have to pick up the tab for nobody else but me. And I tell you, it was the most enjoyable time. I'm just, I'm not on nobody's time. I'm doing my own thing. I'm loving it. I'm eating what I want. Nobody's asking me, can I taste this? Nope. I'm doing it all for me, because at this point now it's about me. And is that selfish? Okay, it could be, but it's okay. It's cool. I'm okay with that.
I wouldn't call it selfish. I think sometimes
That's what they say. That's what they say. But it's not selfish for me. It's self-care for me. It's self-care for me. It's saying I care enough about me to get this up here right. Because if this ain't up here right, nothing else is gonna be right, right? So I'm good like that. Okay, yep. You call it selfish. It says I love me. That's what I say. I love me. Right? You call it selfish, I call it love. I love me.
There you go.
And so in loving me, that means I'm gonna go and eat what I want, do what I want to do. But I know there's priorities that come with it. I'm not steering away from those priorities, but I'm taking care of me. And it becomes more evidence as you get older, because now you have learned that craft of loving you, because you've poured into everybody else. Now it's time to pour into self. And self is good. And I'm okay with that. So
Yeah.
I commend you for that. Keep doing it. Keep going to the movies by yourself. Now raise the bar and go ahead and get you a dinner with it too. It's
Yeah.
the best thing since sliced bread. I tell you, the best thing.
Yeah.
You thought
I,
I
think
had.
I find that it's needed. It's needed because sometimes like you got to come off of that front line and retreat because
Yes.
it just can get so intense with the day to day. So sometimes I just need to come off of that front line because I find myself just going and going and going and going and going and going. Mainly because I don't know how to, that fear of going back to what I was. So I can't get trapped into that. You know what I mean? I still need to know how to take the space that he gives me to just detox. Yeah.
And that I love that word detox. Detox. Detach. You know, so it's just almost like this cathartic part of your life that says, you know what, I know where I came from. If you knew my story and where I came from, then you'll understand this journey was a must. And now I'm in a position where, as we said, understanding the position, I am now in a position to be able to sit back and take in what was back there.
That's right.
I can look in the rear view mirror. The rear view mirror is for a reason. It's in the rear. Now it's full force ahead. How do we see the journey ahead of us? You know, but never forgetting what was in the rear of us. Because once we forget that, we are apt to go back to that same process. So again, understanding the position is very important because if we don't take in those lessons, we are apt to do it again.
Yeah.
So it's just this evolution of life. It's just how we progress and how we process things to ensure that we are leaving the legacy of what we're supposed to leave, right? And I tell everybody, you know, as you started the process of writing your book, I always tell people your writings, your words is a legacy for your children going forward. So, what do you, if we were to ask your children, your grandchildren, what would they say, Mr. Williams, in a couple of words to describe you? What do you think they would say?
I'm laughing because they would say he just his answer to everything is no, and he's mean. But I don't think any of them would say that he don't just love them immensely. I balance it, but I'm also trying to instill in them something that the world ain't gonna give them, and it's gonna be harsh the way the world delivers it. So I think they would say that consistent, loving, and fair.
You know what? I had this question posed to my kids and they said the exact same thing.
What?
Yes, they said the exact same thing. They's like, Mom, you know, you are fair. You are consistent with what you do, but you're more you didn't do the things that you did with us that you do with my granddaughter, because I have a granddaughter. I said it was a different time. So the times have changed, but the lessons never change. And so once you understand the lessons and understand that the consistency, even though it was back whenever, when y'all was, I ain't afraid to say it, I got a 30-year-old, right? Back 30 years ago is not what it is now. Are the lessons almost similar? Sure they are. It's just a different time. So consistency is a must in our children's life. If we're not consistent, and I always tell people, what a lot of people fail at is we become our children's friends.
Yeah.
And so that meshes up the delivery of the things that you try to teach them. And so I always say, I love you immensely, but there's things that I have to teach you. You said the world will not be able to teach you. And as me being a mother of two young men, that in itself is it's off the radar. It's just like off the chart, right? So I can teach you the things as being a woman, but I can't teach you the steps of being a man. So I had to detour that and give that to my daddy, and Lord, let him rest in peace, that he's pleased with what I'm doing with my boys. But having the tools to say no is okay, because no is probably going to keep you alive, right? So I agree. My boys. If you would have said the exact same thing, she mean. Oh well, I'll be mean all day long, but I'm mean enough to know, to let you know that I love you enough to say no, and I'm be consistent in saying no to you, and then you'll
Yes.
understand when you have your own children.
Yes.
Yeah, so definitely understand that piece of it. So what's on the agenda or on the radar for Mr. Williams as we move forward? And then I'm going to ask you a question about your process of becoming an author.
What's on the agenda moving forward?
What's on your plate now? I know you got a lot on your plate, but what's in the near future for your, because we say you're an entrepreneur, you own your own businesses, you're doing some stuff with some halfway homes. What's on the next agenda going forward that's big? Because I think we talked a little bit about, you just had your anniversary this week.
Yeah. For a business, a pest control company that I'm part of.
Mm-hmm.
Me, Mike, and Jason started about 12 years ago. And it went from us three to probably 100 employees now. And it's always a surreal feeling when I'm around it and part of any celebration, because to see all of it and know that we didn't have anything to do with it, it just keeps me grounded. And as far as the business, I started a different business as well back in November of last year, where I'm gonna be doing some business consulting for companies probably 500,000 to 4 million in revenue, and some personal development coaching. And I started my own LLC to do that. And I'm gonna be trying to probably get that off the ground, moving into 2025. And the book was probably,
What's the name of the LLC that you're gonna have coming off the ground in 2025? What's the name of that one?
No, that one is Mount Self as well. Mount Self LLC.
Wow. Okay.
And the reason, so, and the book was something that I wanted to do because the process profoundly shifted my life perception. So I thought that my duty and my assignment was to make sure that you get that out as to whatever ears need to hear it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be trying to pour and water that business, and as well as I'm getting a performance and personal development program getting going inside the pest control company. So it's probably at stage 2 of development. It wasn't there before, so I think that's the missing link in businesses. That because the dynamics of the employee is changing, the mentality and perception is changing, and what I'm finding in the businesses that I've been around is no one is pouring into these people from a human standpoint.
Yes,
it's all about curriculum of work, and these people are dealing with mental issues that prohibit them from being successful and getting results at work. So we're going to combine the two here, see how that works. So far, it's going pretty good. And this doesn't have to be anything that's tied to AA or NA. This is just a human need.
Yes.
That I'm seeing that's not happening as much as it should.
And you know what? If I can just piggyback off of that, I would totally agree with that. I actually, outside of what I do here, and I'm gonna plug myself as well. outside of what I do here on Confessions of Creative Conversations with Dr. C, I also have a consulting business as well that teaches leaders, teaches people in general how to uncover, again, I'm going to use your word self, understanding the bottom line and the foundation of how we create the next employee, because we have to put in a human aspect of it, because a lot of these big businesses and big corporations don't look at it like that. They're looking at numbers and how much revenue they can bring into the business. And you wonder why these people are breaking, or these people are going in here with these mass killings and just flipping out, because they're not taking a personal and close look at the mentality of the people that we are engaged with every day. And 9 times out of 10, you're probably not even talking to them. All you know is this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 employee, and he did X, Y, and Z, but you're not looking at the whole entire picture of him. Yeah, he might be a great worker, but his home life, his home life or her home life is a wreck. Or when she leaves here, she's going to get in her car because she's homeless. Or when she leaves here, she's going to a domestic violence home because of what's going on at our home. So we have to take the whole entire person, and that whole entire person could be a whole entire family. So I agree. We need to start putting a lot more emphasis on not just looking at the numbers of what's being revenued out in these businesses, but looking at the people that are bringing that into the business. Totally understand that piece of it. Yeah, I think that's something that we definitely have to really take a closer look at. And I think if once we start doing that, we'll see some movement in the workplace violence and stuff like this. You'll see a difference, because now people really realize that somebody cares.
Yeah, well, and you'll be seeing results in production.
Of course.
If we get to a point of building leaders, then you will have a business that just continuously grows. Mm-hmm. I mean, it won't fear growth.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Totally. So that's what I'll be pouring into over the next. That's my next big project.
Cool. Well, like I said, you are an interesting individual, Mr. Williams. So tell me, I know that as a brand new author, is there another book? And I want to show the cover of your book, even though you have it on your shirt there. I'm going to let the audience actually see the cover of this. The cover, it was an interesting process, right? I'm quite sure the audience knows that outside of Creative Conversations with Dr. C, I also own Allure Publishing. So he is a part of Allure Publishing. And so we've had this ongoing conversation for the last maybe 3 months or so. And so I shared with him when the book was dropped into my lap, I literally had to put myself in pause moment and actually read it. So I am super happy about this book. And I see the projection of so many people buying this, because it speaks volumes and it gives a human face to what is actually in this book, and what you went through, and seeing the other side of what it could be. There gives hope to this thought of climbing Mount Sep. So tell the audience a little bit about the interaction and in your process as being a first-time author. What, for those people who have never wrote a book, kind of give them a little bit of insight of what the process was for it, because I've always gotten this question from other people, like, you are author and you got this publishing. Great, I got that, but I'm gonna give it to you and ask you to tell the audience what your process was and your take on it.
I think most of my thought process came from my recovery process. The idea sparked from there, because in order for me to get to to a moment of clarity, or a clearer moment of what was really going on with me, the first thing I had to do was write my life story. I had to take a personal inventory. So in that inventory is where I found everything, every defect, every start of the defect, the reason behind the defect, and the therapeutic value of that, the healing of that, is what pretty much sparked the idea for the book. So everybody is not going to battle what I battled. So everybody is not going to have to go to AA. Everybody is not going to NA. But we need to look at the similarities, not the differences. We all have defects of character. And that personal inventory was vital in finding out those things. So that's what sparked the idea. The process, I was scared out of my mind because, first of all, I've been saying that I wanted to either write a book or a screenplay since I can remember. I was probably 12 years old, and I said, and it was just planted in the subconscious that that's what I wanted to do. But as God started bringing me through certain milestones in my life and showing me that I ain't even supposed to be in this office right now based off my past, not supposed to have the blessings that he done gave me. So that lessened my fear. And then I had a mentor of mine that used to tell me, don't worry about it, do it scared. So a lot of things that paralyzed me during my recovery process, every time I got to a hurdle, even helping start this business or taking over the recovery homes, there's always a hurdle that's going to be a pit of fear in the belly. And he would always tell me, so what? Do it scared. Do it scared. And when I do it scared and I let God lead it, I can't even remember why I was scared in the first place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So getting over that fake fear was the first stage of my process. And then being part owner of a business, I had less fears of connecting with people of expertise in certain fields, such as yourself as a publisher, or other technologies that I could use to get this thing going. Because now a lot of people are using AI, and helping formulate the thought process. And I no longer fear those things. I don't fear reaching out to people that are smarter than me. I don't fear reaching out to technology because I'm 52 years old. I don't fear it. And due to my past getting reacclimated with the world, I no longer fear those things. So the covers are coming off slowly but surely. They're not all the way gone, like I said earlier. But my process pretty much was doing it on its own. It was almost just like AI. It's when the spirit gets inside you, God's mission gonna get carried out whether you want it to or not.
Oh, I agree with that one.
Yeah.
And the choir say, "Amen." Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I agree with that. I think a lot of times the fear is what really paralyzes us to do certain things. But if you're in the right place at the right place at the right time, I mean, it'll completely unreveal itself before you know it, right? And so when I actually got the manuscript in my hand, I literally put myself in a mode of shutdown, and I read the book, and I remember calling you that same day, and I just cried because you never know what somebody has gone through.
Yeah.
And you never know what the outcome could be, because your outcome could have been so different.
Yes,
But I
ma'am.
always tell people, God picks his strong soldiers. He's already know who he gonna give this assignment to. So I tell people sometimes, even when I had my stroke, I remember God saying to me, just as clear as I'm talking to you, Mr. Williams, he said to me, do you think that I want you to suffer? And you know, I tell people all the time, God has to talk to me gangster. He can't talk to me. You know, that real Taurus in you, that bull, he got to talk to me like, we're going to be gangster with you because you're not taking it soft. This soft talking to you ain't getting nowhere. Let me talk to you gangster. He said, do you think I want you to suffer? And I'm like, is this a trick question, God? Like, are you trying to punk me? Like, where's Ashton at? Right? Where he going to come through the door? Right? And he said it again with authority. Like, do you think I want you to suffer? And I'm like, well, no, God. He says, sometimes you have to go through the fire, but that doesn't mean you're going to get burned. And that's always stuck with me, because sometimes we have to get hit, get a couple black eyes, few broken bones. But in that feeling, you understand that there's going to be somebody always either on the left, the right, the front, and the back protecting you. And so now, you know, again, we've said it multiple times, it's not about me. It's not about all the extra fluff. The platforms that he's given them to us knowing that he's given the assignment to the right people. And so we have to walk in authority and knowing when those no's mean no, it really means yes to me, because I'm going to keep pushing through because I know who's giving me the assignment. So I cannot be more pleased to be a part of this journey with you, to provide these tools in this book to other people. You've already opened the doors for other people to see this, see what God has done in your life, and see where you've come from and where you at now. As you said that you wasn't supposed to be there, yes, you was. Because God had already ordained. I'm gonna open up all these doors. Come on, because it's for you. You know, so I cannot be more happy for you. And I'm not gonna cry. You know, I'm telling people I'm a crybaby. Even though that Taurus says I'm a crybaby. So I say to everybody, if you have not, and I'm gonna show the picture. This is the book. And we've been back and forth with this book cover.
Yeah.
But in the end, this is what came out of it.
And can I say one thing about that title? If you while you got it up.
Sure.
The reason the mount is capital and the self is lowercase is because it ain't about us. Every day, part of my mission is to shrink me to become nothing. That is the whole journey to understanding what this is about and getting closer to him. I gotta shrink in order for him to get big. Otherwise, I think I'm him. So that self is lowercase for a reason.
Wow. And you know what I really enjoyed about this particular design when I was working with the graphic designer, just the clouds. The clouds made me just feel just at ease. Like I'm getting closer to where I need to be. But it comes with some heartaches and some pains. But at the end, I'm standing in victory.
And that's why the other side of the mountain are steps to the top. The other side is regular, but it's steps to it.
Yeah. Wow. This has been, whew, this has been a true educational conversation today. So do you think you're going to do a book 2?
I do.
And I'll be the first one.
And I can let the cat out the bag. I want the next one to be called Position and State.
Wow. You know what? It's almost like a revelation of evolvement in your life, seeing what you have come from, and now putting all those tools into true movement. Because it's always moving parts to everything that we do. Again, as I said, if we stop learning, we are stagnant. But as we're moving towards something other, there's always another chapter, another
Yes,
book,
ma'am.
another way of putting it out there for people to see. So say it again. What's the name of the title again?
Position and state.
Position and state. Mm. Well, all right. Y'all heard it first on this platform. Y'all heard it first. He said it's going to be a book too. I hear you. I hear you. I'm telling you, when I say this has been a true eye-opening experience for me. I have learned so much. Not that I have not learned anything from the previous podcasts that I have been on, but I have learned so much in this interview with you, Mr. Williams. And I am going to say it right now. I invite you to come back because I'm quite sure many of our viewers would want to know what's the next thing that's going to come. Because I say all the time, in order for people to know who you are, you got to be visible. So I understand that sometimes we don't want to be that, but sometimes we got to get out there for us to be able to continue to pass that message on. So I'm going to invite you back again with some more people on deck, because I think this conversation needs to continue. I think there is so much more out here that people need to hear from you, and just impart some knowledge, because I always tell people all the time, the best knowledge that is not unknown is the one that's in the grave.
Yes, ma'am.
Because people don't want to give it up. They think they
Yes,
got
ma'am.
to have some money behind it to give up that knowledge. But you got to remember where the knowledge was planted from and where it came from. So I think this has to be another conversation, definitely another conversation that we need to have again. And we're going to figure it out. And when we know, I'm going to make sure it's out there for everybody to see. So I want you to go ahead and tell people when is this book supposed to come out again?
October 2nd.
October.
Is
Did
the
y'all hear that,
release.
y'all? October 2nd. That means that is in pre-order. If you have
On,
not, where's it
on,
at?
on Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and Goodreads, right?
Goodreads, yes. Yep. And if you want to, you can also go out to allurepublishing.net. Send an email if you want to get it from that platform as well. I always tell people, if you pre-order it through there, there's going to be a little bit of a goodie bag that comes along with that. As to say thank you from Mr. Williams as well as from Allure Publishing. So please, if you have yet to not purchase this book, it is out there. Please go out and get it. We will invite Mr. Williams back once it has dropped, for people to be able to ask questions as it relates to it. Once people get the opportunity to read it, we will bring him back, so that he can continue to have this conversation that is needed, especially now in this world where people think we're no longer in COVID. I beg to differ. I work in healthcare. So COVID is not gone anywhere. And things are steadily happening, especially, and I'm not going to throw anybody out here about any political anything, but I am. This is the time now. If you don't have a voice, you might want to get a voice. If you're going to the polls, take a few people with you, because if we don't activate the voice within us, we are going to be in turmoil. So that's just my political push. But anyway, any parting words, Mr. Williams, that you want to part with us before we let go of this podcast?
No, just everybody, man, just stay connected to that power source so you can stay protected.
Oh, I like that. That sounds like another T-shirt.
That's what my sponsors say to me all the time.
Sound like a T-shirt to me. All right. Well, you know what? As always, I thank you, Mr. Williams, for taking the time out to provide your insight and giving your voice to your story, sharing your story with the world, because that's what Allure Publishing wants to do. We want to share the narratives that will save some lives. And I
Yes, ma'am.
believe in my core, in my heart, that Climbing Mount Self is one of those books that will provide that that understanding that they're not by themselves, that there's somebody always standing in the gap for you, to protect you, to uplift you, to encourage you to move to your better self. But as you say, tap into that power source, whatever that power source is. Tap into it and understand that you're not by yourself. There's people out here who have gone through it, have survived it, and still moving forward. And again, Mr. Williams, salute to you and your continued journey, and empowering those people that are around you, and understanding, and it's not about you, it's about the people that are connected to you, the people that are going to take your message and move it toward the next level. So salute to you, and I'm looking forward to that next book. I'm telling you, I'm waiting. I'm waiting on the next book, and I know
Yes,
that
ma'am.
other people are going to be waiting on it as well. But before we leave this platform, I want to make sure that people understand, as Mr. Williams said, continue to stay connected. Stay connected to those people who might be lost, as the kids say, in the sauce. We have to continue to check on our people, because sometimes our strong people need to be checked on as well too. We have this aura about ourselves that always okay, but sometimes we're not. And so
Mhm.
again, as I've always say, stay connected, check on our strong people, make sure that they're okay, make sure that they're still breathing, make sure that they know they're loved. So, but before I get out of here, just know, have a productive and powerful day. And until next time, my good people, you be good to each other, and we'll see you the next time on Creative Conversations with Dr. C. Good night, all.